Hi everyone, happy Tuesday. I am back for more of Ungifted. And come here, Sailor, you wanna say hi to everyone? This is my puppy. Hey Sailor, come up. So this is Sailor. She says, hey everyone, happy Tuesday. She might be here listening for chapter 4 and see, oh wait, no, it's chapter 5. She might be here listening for chapter 5. She wants to know what happens in Ungifted too. So let's get to chapter 5. We know in chapter 4, we met Chloe, and Chloe is still our narrator. She's gonna be talking for a little while. And when it changes, I'll let you know. So we ended up with Chloe. Hi, I'm Chloe Garfinkel from homeroom. I held out my hand and he shook it lightly. Maybe he expected it to break off like that piece of robot. Hey, don't worry about that lift mechanism. Sorry, I soothed. The weakness probably came from a bad weld that got jarred loose let by the chain drive, or maybe too much compression from the bimba cylinder. He looked blank. Oh, what's it for? Oh, the bimba cylinder provides the pressure. I mean, Tin Man, he corrected. What does he do? The robot has multiple capabilities, I enthused. The electric eye can navigate color-coded tracks on the floor. The forks pick up inflatable rings that the lift mechanism places on various pegs at different heights. And he can deploy a mini bot that will climb a pole and strike a bell at the top. He seemed confused. Is that how geniuses spend their time, picking up toys and ringing bells? I bristled. You're here, aren't you? If being smart's such a crime, you're just as guilty as the rest of us. He had no answer for that. So I went in a calmer tone. Noah's the only one who's really a genius, except that the work is a little more challenging. How's the academy any different from Hardcastle? He gave me a half smile. Seriously? If there's one thing we're good at here, I assured him, it's being serious. Have you ever been to Hardcastle Middle School? He asked. I know we probably take some things for granted, but they're probably not the things you think. If you want to plug in a computer, can you find an outlet with 3 prongs? Can you find one that even works? Will part of the suspended ceiling come down on your head in the middle of class? Will the cafeteria refrigerators break so you can't buy lunch for a day, or a week, or a month? Hey, things like that happen at the academy too, I insisted almost triumphantly. Last year, the freezers failed, so there was no ice for... The wind went out of my sails as I realized how lame this was going to sound. The sushi bar... He nodded sympathetically. You guys should get t-shirts made. You know, I survived the sushi crisis. Hey! All I'm saying is that you brainiacs have a nice racket going here. I skewered him on that point. Don't you mean we brainiacs? You're one of us now. Right, he agreed flustered. But, well, I just got here, so you've been riding the gravy train longer. Regular school has its advantages, right? I didn't want to seem dorky, but I genuinely was interested. Dances, parties, a shrug. Pep rallies, sports, the basketball team is all city. Wasn't there some kind of huge accident at their last game? His eyes narrowed. What do you know about that? Everybody's talking about it. A piece broke off of the statue? My voice trailed off. Why did he seem so suspicious? I was only trying to be friendly, and he was acting like this was a CIA interrogation under hot lights. I don't go to that school anymore, he said very sharply, almost like he was mad at me. I'm too smart. And he stormed away, leaving me standing in the hall with my mouth hanging open. It wasn't his rudeness that struck me. It was this. Ever since I'd started at the academy, the one thing I'd been yearning for was somebody normal. Now, finally, he was here. Hypothesis. What if the normal people are even weirder than we are? Unknowing. Donovan Curtis. So this is chapter 5 right now. So we get back to Donovan talking, and we get to hear what Donovan's thinking and his side of the story. When the paper airplane bounced off the back of the bus driver's head, the man pulled the bus over him to the shoulder. He got out of his seat, picked up the offending aircraft, and waved it at us. Honest, it wasn't me. The last thing I wanted to do at the academy was draw attention to myself. But I was so getting used to getting blamed for stuff that I braced myself for the onslaught. Interesting experiment, the driver said in an approving tone. The air moves with the bus, so the plane flies normally. An open window would interfere with that. The more open windows, the greater the interference, and if the bus had no roof, the plane would be a half mile behind us. Whoa, even the academy bus drivers were gifted. If you chucked a paper plane at someone, they assume you did it for science. On my old bus, the driver would have held us hostage until we gave up the person who did it. Probably me. And you can bet that interesting experiment wouldn't have been what he called it. Mutiny, maybe, or armed insurrection. There was a smattering of applause at a 7th grader, flushed with triumph, reclaimed his plane, and we were underway. Soon we arrived at the academy for scholastic distinction, which looked absolutely nothing like a school if you ask me. It was by far the most modern building in town. Every inch of the place was covered with solar panels. On sunny days, it was like pulling up to a jewel-encrusted palace. Supposedly, the students had worked with the architects who designed it. The academy was 100% eco-friendly, right down to the bathrooms, where the toilets had different flush settings, depending on the kind of waste you were getting rid of. There was no button for cherry bomb, which is what the teachers invested a lot of energy preparing for at my old school. Mr. Del Rio, the principal, stood outside the automatic sliding doors, greeting every student with a handshake. At Hardcastle Middle, you never saw the principal unless you did something wrong, which in my case was fairly often. Mom always used to say, Donnie gets a lot of personal attention at very highest level at school. She was so proud that I was at the academy now. I felt a pang of guilt for the bogus reason behind it. Determination surged through me. Maybe I could hack it here. After all, half of being gifted was just the fact that everybody expected you to be smart. Like that 7th grader on the bus. No way was that any experiment. That guy made a paper plane and he couldn't resist flying it. Well, couldn't resist was practically my middle name. I wasn't that different from the academy kids. Obviously, I was never going to be a star at this place. But with hard work, a little bit of luck, and a lot of good acting, I might just be able to fake it. If X represents the vector variables B and C are vectors of known coefficients, and A is a matrix of coefficients determine the maximum value of the object's function, I stared at the problem until my eyeballs were about to drip out of their sockets and roll down my cheek. All around the math room, my classmates were working away, calculating and figuring it out. It went without saying that I couldn't do it. Man, I couldn't even read it. In the next row, Noah was scribbling away like it was the easiest thing in the world. The kid really was gifted. Although anybody who looked like Noah and wasn't gifted would have a genuine complaint. Picture a 4'11" praying mantis suffering from extreme malnutrition with a long nose and glasses that were last in style when President Truman wore them. As he plowed methodically through the pages, I couldn't help noticing what a dark pencil he was using. The numbers really stood out against the bright white of the worksheet. Another thing about me, I've been blessed with excellent peripheral vision. Well, what was I supposed to do? Sit there while the period ticked away? According to Ancestry.com, my great-great-great uncle was a spotter during World War I. He floated over the battlefield in a hot air balloon and peered down into the German trenches. It didn't explain much about me, since he never tried to bungee jump out of the basket or anything, but it was probably why it was so easy for me to copy the answers off of Noah's paper. I tried to get a few wrong, which was actually pretty tricky. I understood so little that it was impossible to know what a reasonable mistake might be. Even cheating was harder at this place. Noah scrambled up on scrawny legs and handed his paper to Miss B. "I'm done." She glanced at it and then handed it back without so much as notation. "All right, Noah, do it properly this time." The praying mantis hunched a little further forward. "I'm working to my best ability. It's not my fault this math is too hard. I'll never get it right." His lip quivered. The teacher nodded understandingly. "Poor you. It isn't easy to master calculus in middle school." "This isn't calculus. It's linear programming," Noah blurted. "Everybody knows that." "Right," she said triumphantly, "including you." She motioned him back toward his seat. He looked bummed at getting caught, but he couldn't have been half as bummed as I was. In a class of geniuses, I had copied from the guy who got it wrong on purpose. Luckily, there were plenty of fish in the sea. I leaned a little closer to Abigail Lee, who was motoring through the assignment at almost Noah speed. I remembered her from elementary school, where she'd been all universe at anything that took brains. Her writing wasn't quite as clear, but beggars can't be choosers. At least I had the reasonable belief she wasn't trying to fail. What was up with this Noah kid? I couldn't imagine. "Hey!" Abigail hunched over, blocking my view of her paper. "What do you think you're doing?" I played dumb. "What?" I covered my worksheet like I was preventing her from copying me. "Miss B," she bawled, "Donovan's cheating." "Oh, it's okay." "Chill out," I tried to hiss. "I'm not going to chill out. If we have the same answers, we'll both get zeros. I have never had a zero in my life. I can't get a zero. I work too hard to get a zero. What am I going to tell my tutors if I get a zero?" She was red in the face, heading for purple. Noah seemed genuinely bewildered. "Well, if you're looking for the right answers," he asked me, "why don't you just calculate them?" "Big talk from a freak who goes out of his way to put down the wrong answers," I retorted. That got Chloe's back up. "Watch who you're calling a freak." "Yeah?" I spat back. "Well, I don't know what that is, a tro whatever." Then this girl, JC, who said random things at moments of stress, announced, "In Brazil, more cars run on ethanol than regular gas." It had the effect of a referee's whistle, separating the combatants from their clinch. I learned a few things in that class. First, the regular student code about not ratting people out. That didn't apply at Academy. Second, nobody knew how to deal with cheating because it never happened. No one needed to do it. Third, zero is a 4-letter word. Amazingly, I didn't really get in trouble, although it was pretty obvious who I was copying from. I wasn't sent to the office. There was no detention. Nobody even yelled at me, which was a first in my educational experience. Instead, my homeroom teacher, Mr. Osborne, came and suggested we take a walk. At Hardcastle Middle, if you're caught off campus during school hours, they've practically got guard towers to gun you down. I was beginning to see that they had 2 sets of rules in our district, one for the brainiacs and one for everybody else. Of course, I was living the good life now, but I still took it personally since I knew it was all a mistake. "Look, Donovan," Mr. Osborne said pleasantly, "at the Academy, we've got kids who are talented at a lot of different subjects, but very few of us are good at everything. If you're not up for this math, it's no disgrace to admit it. In fact, it happens all the time. We have regular classes too." I nodded dumbly. "This is a period of discovery," he went on. "We're getting to know you, and you're getting to know us. And during that process, we'll explore where your true gifts lie. Are there any fields of study that really turn you on?" I hesitated. Sooner or later, somebody was going to realize that my presence here was completely bogus. But also, sooner or later, my namesake, James Donovan, would have joined his fellow Titanic passengers on the bottom of the ocean. He'd survived by staying afloat until the rescuers could get him, by making it later rather than sooner. I had to keep swimming. I think, I said aloud, that we should stick with the exploring part a little while longer. He nodded approvingly. Very wise, very wise. Let's not rush into anything, but promise me you'll join the robotics team and help out with our entry. Last time I touched Tin Man, his hand fell off, I reminded him gently. He shrugged it off. You'll watch and learn. That's what the academy is all about. Thanks, Mr. Osborne, I mumbled. Call me Oz. I hate it when adults do that. The Hardcastle Mall used to be one of my favorite hangouts. Tonight, though, it looked a little drab and in need of a facelift. It wasn't the mall that had changed. It was just that school was newer, nicer, and cleaner. The academy, not Hardcastle Middle, obviously. Our cafeteria had better options than the food court, and the prices were lower. We didn't even have the dumb rules that ruined everything. For example, soda was banned at my school because of the sugar content. But the academy lunchroom had a drink machine that was open to everyone. It even sold extra sugar, extra caffeine stuff. It was fine, even necessary to fuel the brainiacs through late-night studying marathons. But if one of the ungifted kids at Hardcastle happened to get a sip, he'd go straight out and rob a bank. Technically, my 6-month ban for swimming in the fountain was still in effect, but the security guard who had busted me wasn't on duty. It was a bum rap. It isn't skinny dipping if you're wearing boxers. Besides, if the air conditioning is going to break down on a 90-degree day, it's management's responsibility to fix it before people start looking the other way to cool off. So it sounds like Donovan has gotten in trouble, not just at school before, but at the mall too. I guess he went skinny dipping in the mall's water fountain? I don't know. Let's see what he does now. The Daniels had never experienced the academy cafeteria, so they thought the food court was fine dining. We weren't eating anyway. I was on a bench, trying to ignore the Daniels whooping and yipping, designed to catch the attention of a couple girls. Do something funny, Donovan, Nussbaum urged. Chicks eat that stuff up. I glared at him. If you want to talk to Heather Mahoney, why don't you just walk over there? Because that'd be lame, he explained reasonably. She has to come up to me. Jump in the fountain again, Sanderson urged. That's an attention grabber. You jump in the fountain, I shot back. He grabbed me under the arms, but I disarmed him with a punch to the gut before Nussbaum could help him wrestle me into the water. It did the trick, though. Heather and her friend, Deirdre, somebody, were ambling in our direction. Hi, Donovan, Heather addressed me. Haven't seen you in a few days. Were you sick? Donovan's a genius now, Sanderson supplied. He goes to Gifted Academy. Really? Deirdre was impressed. Don't you have to take a lot of tests for that? It's no big deal. I put in quickly studying the floor. You're telling me, Nussbaum exclaimed. You know how he got picked. Here's only there because... I stomped on his sneaker hard, silencing him before he could say anything. Donovan, came another voice. It took me a second to recognize her. It was Chloe from the academy. She said something to a middle-aged woman and headed toward our table. Who's that? Sanderson asked. She's in my new homeroom, I replied. Nussbaum snickered. Nice lumberjack shirt. Funny, surrounded by the kids at the academy. Chloe looked kind of good. Call it the Euclid factor. The gifted crew wasn't exactly fashion week. Yet, next to Heather and Deirdre, you could tell she was out of her league. Those two wore skinny jeans and vintage t-shirts that were just, well, right. Chloe wasn't ugly or anything like that. In fact, she had a really pretty face, but you had to concentrate to notice it. She wore no makeup, and her loose flannel shirt gave her a lumpy appearance. A huge button on her lapel declared, "That's okay, Pluto, I'm not a planet either." It clanked as she walked. I was surprised to see her outside of school. I always thought of her as one of those people who suddenly whooshes into being at the sound of the first bell in the morning and winks out again when the clock strikes 3:30. "Hi, Donovan," she greeted me eagerly. "Do you live around here?" "Hey, Chloe." She was looking expectantly at the others, so I semi-introduced them. "Meet the guys." "Hi, Chloe." Nussbaum stepped forward and pumped her hand. The grin on his face was barely the side of idiotic. "How does it feel to have Donovan at the academy? I mean, is he gifted or what?" I think it's or what, Sanderson said with a smirk. Chloe could tell that they were messing with her, but she had no idea how much. "Donovan's cool," she offered tentatively. She turned back to me. "Sorry about what happened in math today. How did it go with Oz?" For some reason, I felt I had to defend myself. "I never meant to cheat off of Abigail. I was trying to cheat off of Noah. How was I supposed to know he puts down the wrong answers on purpose? I thought he was this big genius." "He definitely doesn't feel the need to improve," she replied with a sympathetic smile. "Abigail's the opposite. If she ever brought home a B+, it would be the end of the world." "She practically tore my head off." "She's under a lot of pressure," Chloe explained. "She does just about everything, and she's keeping half the tutors in town in business. She pushes herself pretty hard." "I never thought the gifted kids had problems," mused Deirdre. "It's those big brains," Nussbaum supplied wisely. "It makes a person top-heavy, out of balance, like the Atlas statue." "How crazy was that?" Heather exclaimed. "I was at the game. The girl at the ends of my row was covered in broken glass." "They still haven't found the guy who did it," Deirdre added. "I heard it was an accident," I suggested, looking daggers at Nussbaum. "Wear and tear on the statue. It can't be easy to hold up the weight of the world in the wind and rain every year, especially when it's attached by one bolt." "One bolt?" Chloe repeated. That's not good. Wait, I don't know where I am. "Oh, that's pretty shoddy engineering. We put more thought into Tin Man's stress points." "Tin Man?" Sanderson echoed. "Our class robot," I answered and bit my tongue. "I mean, the robot that lives in the homeroom I got assigned to." "It's your robot too," Chloe said generously. "You're on the robotics team now. Maybe you'll put us over the top at the big meet. We've come in second to Cold Spring Harbor 3 years in a row." You could just see the Daniels swelling up with joy at this new information. Not only did I go to the nerd school, but I was also on the robotics team, which was nerd squared. No way could I ever live this one down in only one lifetime. All right, I am going to stop right there, and I'm going to mark my book and put my bookmark in it. So I hope you enjoyed the rest of chapter 4 and some of chapter 5. I will be back tomorrow to read chapter 5. But what do you think is going to happen? Donovan seems to be caught in between these two worlds. So he has his gifted friends, which is Chloe, which I think they're pretty good friends now. And then he has his other friends from his old middle school. And he's trying to play like this two different people, right? So I don't know what's going to happen. Do you think he's going to get caught? Do you think Chloe's going to catch on to him? Or do you think he's going to keep his second life at Hardcastle Middle School hidden? I don't know. You can comment down below what you think, but come back tomorrow so we could read the rest of chapter 5 and probably start chapter 6. Bye, friends.